Boyfriends. What happened to the guy she told you not to worry about? He got her pregnant within a month of us breaking up and gave her herpes. Now they're divorcees and fight and bicker constantly. I remember that phone call when she called to let me know she had herpes and that I should get checked. I smugly said, I don't need to. I've only ever slept with one other person. Then I went on a year-long deployment to Iraq and then returned and dated you for a year. Unless you were sleeping around on me, which I know you weren't, and I don't need to. Her silence was hilarious. Got her to admit she slept around on me. Story 2. Different girls, mostly. There's always that guy. Number 1, one came out as gay years later. Nothing happened before that, though. Number 2, she went away for a weekend with a girlfriend of hers. The guy she said not to worry about just happened to be there, at the same house with all her college friends. She at least had the decency to break up with me when she got back before her friends told me what actually happened. Number 3, she made out with a guy at a party, but he totally initiated it, and what was she supposed to do? Say no? Stop it? That would be absurd, right? Number 4, this one was one of those we were on a break situations, but she left the club we both happened to be at to go see his car. I ended up giving her a lift home. I didn't enjoy that. Number 5, during a relationship that was supposed to be a temporary long-distance relationship, the guy showed up at the airport to surprise my girlfriend with roses. When I went to fetch her, they got married. Number 6, she made out with a dude in her bedroom while I was in the lounge and hadn't finished making out by the time I walked in on them. She married him. I've been single for a while now. Story 3. It was a longtime friend. He was always interested and had a couple of times proposed that they get back together. But nothing was ever established to begin with, by putting her in misleading and awkward situations in order to guilt-trip her. Examples include invitations to public dance classes that turned out to be private tango lessons. A simple bite out to eat was actually reservations for a high-end restaurant, and threats of throwing away expensive jewelry that he offered her if she didn't accept them. When she and I got together initially, the first thing he did was break off his own engagement, thinking there was a chance for us to break up. She and I dated for a few years and they stayed friends. I finally popped the question and he ran to her parents crying about it. He eventually found another woman and married her. We even got invited to the wedding and has since dropped all contact. Story 4. She had intimacy with him in the back of one of the zoo transport vans with a shared work toy, which I guess, given the industry we all worked in, was the most appropriate of toys. Eventually, I found out. She immediately dumped me. She told him they were now exclusive and he immediately dumped her as he had no interest in a relationship and just enjoyed the thrill of having intimacy with someone else's girlfriend. He went back to his homeland and continued in the industry. She sent messages asking for us to meet and talk, which I ignored. She fell into a huge depression and attempted to end it all. Oh dear, how sad. Story 5. She kept hiding the fact she was seeing him in private without my knowledge after we had a discussion about it like adults, stating that it didn't feel comfortable. I saw a text message while she was driving and it showed up on her notifications on the screen. I was in the passenger seat. We got into a heated argument and we were in an on-again, off-again relationship. I was an emotional dunce when it came to romantic feelings and was in a toxic situation, realizing I was just an option for her and would always be second best. The feeling sucked and it took 2 years to recover from my emotional trauma and mental state. That was 5 years ago. Now I'm happily married. My advice, regardless of your gender, is to take your time dealing with your emotions and trauma. A relationship won't make you happy and should not be an excuse for why. It's nice. It feels nice. Everyone wants it in some shape or form, but your happiness is how you create it. Be yourself and be happy. Thank you for reading my rant. Story 6. She said he reminds her of her father. He's like 37 and that he's acting pathetic and desperate for her. She said that he gives her gifts for no reason and that it's awkward. She claimed he creeps her out and sometimes scares her, that he has his friends and a brother stalking her. He acted out plenty of times. One of the instances was when he and his 35-plus-year-old criminally convicted friends barged into her flat. She has a 3-year-old daughter and started making a big fuss about why she's not into him. Police were called. He claimed that if he cannot have her, then no man ever will. Despite tons of his childish, weird, and straight-up reportable acts, she continued being friends with him. She claimed I was the only normal person in her life at some point. All that happened in the span of like 2 months or less earlier this year. Now I suspect that he moved in with her. Either she loves toxic relationships or I don't understand women like at all. Story 7. She left me for him. He waited to graduate from school first, broke it off with me, and was already celebrating an anniversary with him before we were even done. I think. I'm not sure. Overall, I think it worked out really well for them. They got married, have a kid. Seems like she made the right choice, but it really destroyed me for a long time and probably still has an effect on me to this day. Used to be really angry about it, but given the results, I can't stay mad about it. Plus, people change and that's not a problem, but still, be honest with people and don't cheat. It's pretty crappy. Story 8. She promised he was just a friend. She said that since he lives in the UK and we're in the USA, there's nothing to be worried about. Imagine my surprise when she broke up with me and then moved to a different country to be with him. Last I heard, they only dated for a year or two, then she got fired from her remote job, broke up with him, and is now living with her parents back in the USA. All of this happened after she wouldn't move 2 states away to live with me. I dodged a nuke there. Story 9. An old friend of hers came back into her life, and after some talks and multiple "we're just friends" assurances, we ended up breaking up. We tried the whole friends with benefits thing for a bit, but after making the huge mistake of asking if the other guy was bigger than me, to which she answered honestly and in probably what was too much detail, we just got out of high school, and like most people that age, my self-esteem was not the greatest, especially when it came to what's going on downstairs. I decided that it just wasn't going to work out. They got into a relationship and I blocked her on Facebook. Years later, I see the guy working at Dave & Buster's. Being friendly, I ask, "How's it going?" To which he responded with, "Well, not good." I apologized, saying that sucks, and then walked away. Every now and again, I'll think about her, but upon deeper reflection, I realized we were obviously going on 2 separate paths at that point in life, and although it hurt at the time, it was definitely for the best. Story 10. My wife met a new friend at church who we'll call Charles. They started spending time together at church and then started meeting outside of church. I raised my concerns and was told that I had nothing to worry about. She told me jealousy isn't attractive. She had an affair with Charles. This was while I was working nights and going to school during the day. I found out and she was extremely apologetic and said she made a mistake. I was torn on whether to stay with her or not because we have kids. I ultimately decided to stay and try to work things out. Charles was married also, and he and his wife decided to work things out as well. This was 18 years ago, and my wife and I are still married. I'd even say happily married. Still think about it from time to time, even though I decided to forgive her. I guess forgiving and forgetting are different things. Charles passed away of brain cancer around 8 or 9 years ago. Story 11. With this girlfriend, pretty fair. The first was a music producer, but my girlfriend legitimately isn't his type. They are actually way too similar with Gemini energy and fight like actual siblings over stuff like reverb math and audio plugins. The second was a dealer, but despite his butch, neutral looks, the man is proudly gay as heck. I met a few of the twinks he'd been with during our time in that area. Since we've both been cheated on a couple of times in relationships before, we genuinely aren't interested in messing around in our 30s. Story 12. They just had their second child. She started cheating when I, who never wanted children, was fostering her 7-year-old cousin before the rest of her family was too messed up to inconvenience themselves. The new guy won't have anything to do with the cousin. It was such a ridiculous situation. It basically just felt like I had dodged a bullet. I feel bad for the cousin, who now has no one caring about him, and I feel bad for her because literally all of her friends took my side. I asked them not to, so she wound up isolated. People make their decisions, though. Story 13. She cheated on me after I basically was her therapist for over a year, got her a new job, paid for most of her expenses, and took her to Japan. She cheated because she felt not loved after we had a fight. I found out she started chatting with a dude that tried to kiss her once while I was standing next to her, almost a year ago. Her best friend, who told me I should not worry about him and that she would never want to lose me as a friend because I'm so nice, basically hosted her while she had her escapades with him. It broke my trust and loyalty forever. Still recovering. We basically always had a great time. Same interests, great intimacy, and she told me 2 days before cheating that she wants to marry me. I later realized I was in a relationship with a narcissist that love-bombed me so she could feel love. Story 14. I used to date this girl. She had a best friend, a huge nerd, not her type, and I wasn't worried at all. They knew each other since middle school. I got to know him, we became friends. Fast forward almost 5 years later, she broke up with me. She had an affair and left me for him, but that's a different story. Most of the friends I got to know through her never even tried to reach out to me, but he did. We met and talked, and after a few beers, he told me how a year before, while I was on a family holiday in Egypt, she intoxicatedly tried to have intimacy with him, but he turned her down. I fully believe him, mostly because he cannot lie for anything, so yeah, he turned out to be a better human being than she. Story 15. I was dating this girl that I was madly in love with. The sun rose and set with her. If she wanted the moon, I would find a way to get it for her. We were together for 2 years. Then one day she started acting weird. Wouldn't want to talk, one-word answers, Then one Saturday night we attended her best friend's birthday party. I met her there. The moment I walked in the door, she was doing her best not to be by me. If I tried to talk to her, she would end the conversation as soon as possible. I finally got fed up and asked what was going on. She took me away from the crowd and told me she was uncomfortable with me being there. Needless to say, I was shocked. When I inquired as to why she would be uncomfortable with me, her boyfriend being at the party with her, she pointed out a certain fellow and explained that he was interested in her, and my being there made the situation uncomfortable. Not gonna lie, folks, that statement cut me to the bone, but I maintained, looked her in the eyes, and said, "Okay, well, let me save you from your discomfort." And I left. I cried in the car on the way home. About 3 months later, when I started coming out of my funk, she called, wanting to know how I was doing. I lied and told her I was doing great and asked how I could be of assistance. That's when she told me she missed me. I asked why. She said she missed the way I treated her, how attentive I was, and how I was always considerate of her feelings and her well-being. I asked what happened with her new boy. Folks, it was a story as old as time. He had a girlfriend and just wanted to get with her. She said when she found out she was mad. She asked him why he didn't let her know he had a girlfriend. His answer was, "You didn't ask." She then told him, "I broke up with my boyfriend for you." He replied, "I didn't ask you to do that. You did that on your own." Now she was seeking forgiveness and wanted to give it another try. I was tempted because I was still madly in love with her, but she showed her true colors and I just couldn't take the chance on her leaving when the next new shiny thing came up. I told her no, because now I couldn't trust her, and a relationship without trust is no relationship at all. Story 16. Oh, you mean his buddy's girlfriend that he said was just a friend? Yeah, they're married now. The last I heard, he was largely left out of a triad with his wife and another woman at a rent fair, so that's funny as heck. Or my ex-husband, who told me not to worry. He just fell asleep on my coworker's couch after walking her home on New Year's. He impregnated her, and they're married now. The kid was premature with a bunch of health issues and has visibly aged them both. Or an ex-friend who was a bit too friendly with my boyfriend, and I was made out to be crazy for being jealous. They are married now. I honestly wish them happiness, as I think they're well suited to each other. I don't mean that in a negative way either. Needless to say, I have very few people I trust, and the second I'm told not to worry about someone, I most definitely become hypervigilant to that person and the person telling me not to worry. Story 17. Not me, but I had a friend, ex, who got a crush on another longer-standing friend's girlfriend. The longer-standing friend was a deeper friendship, from basically their teens. At one point we met at an event, and I told my longer-standing friend to watch out for ex because he had a crush on his girlfriend, and I knew they were hanging out a lot. The friend's girlfriend somehow heard from afar and lashed out at me, asking if I thought they didn't talk and didn't trust each other and that I was overstepping and should just back off. Fast forward 1.5 years. I still talk with ex, but we're less friends, and he and that friend's girlfriend are together. One of the longest called it moments I ever had. Story 18. About a month before our relationship, I had a one-night stand. Literally a month before my girlfriend and I started talking. Never spoke to the other person again. Well, the other guy found out about it through mutual friends and actually knew the one-night stand girl also. So he proceeded to tell my girlfriend around 2 or 3 months into our relationship that I had actually cheated on her with this chick and had slept with her after we started dating. He told her she could introduce them to prove it. I believed it was an attempt to be a hero, so she would be so grateful that she'd finally want to be with him or something. They'd just been friends for probably 10 years. I could tell for weeks that something wasn't right, but she'd just say everything was fine. I remember when she finally told me. I actually called him and he was intoxicated and cried on the phone that he was sorry and admitted everything. Lol. They never spoke again, but it did do damage because it seemed like she could never fully trust me after that. We broke up around a year later, and trust issues were one of the main problems, even though I was always 100% faithful. Story 19. One of my roommates in college would hang out with my girlfriend one-on-one when we first started dating. We were all friends before, so it wasn't an issue at all because they did that before we started dating. The thing that was weird was he would intentionally not say that she was with him. Multiple times I would later talk to my girlfriend and she would very casually mention something like, "Oh, I went to the library with him." After a couple of instances of this happening, it weirded out my girlfriend because why was he not telling me? So she decided to tell me before she went to go get coffee with him one afternoon and wanted me to ask some probing questions to him afterward to see if he ever mentioned she was there. He did not. We determined that he liked her too and was trying to undermine us, but it just didn't work because we actually talked to each other and didn't hide things. After that incident, she decided to stop hanging out with him alone. To her, they were just hanging out casually. To him, they were sneaking around behind my back and it just kind of bothered her. It also bothered me, but only made me upset with him, not her. Both of our friendships with them became strained and have never really recovered, even now, years later. Not quite the don't worry about him scenario, but it's the closest I have and so unlike anything I've ever experienced. Story 20. Not a boyfriend, but a girlfriend hoping to offer solace to the boyfriends. I've never been the kind of girl who had a lot of guy friends outside of family. I've just had gone along with women and worked in or went to school in female-dominated fields. After I made a major career shift, I found myself at a job with a lot more men, and honestly, it enriched my life to be able to experience so many new people, especially a coworker I clicked with instantly, Luke. We got along instantly like true siblings, and we would hang out here and there, but mostly just made a really good team at work and had some good deep talks. After one hangout where we got a few drinks, I came home to my boyfriend being really upset that he had been worried for months that I was having a crazy office affair. I truly have had more excitement at the thought of a pap smear than the thought of Luke. After we talked about it and made sure he wasn't asking me to change my contact or do anything regarding Luke, he just wanted to meet him if he could and didn't press because he believed if it turned into anything else that I'd handle it. They met and he met his girlfriend. They even got along and he truly never seemed to worry about it again. Sometimes it really is nothing. You just have to be willing to communicate and to ask with intent to understand, not accuse. We've had ups and downs, but mostly going strong in 5 years. So take it how you will for your own circumstances. This isn't to downplay some of the atrocities here. I'm so sorry people have been so cruel to you guys. Story 21. She moved back home across the US to be with him. She ran into him on a vacation back to her hometown. A couple of months later, I saw him posted on a social media video that I wasn't supposed to see. I put two and two together and broke up with her. I told some mutual friends, only to find out she had told some that we were already broken up and neglected to tell me this fact. Less than a month later, she was pregnant. The timing was very close that friends had questions, and so did I. Not mine, thankfully. On to better things. Story 22. Not a boyfriend, but a husband. It was my ex-wife and my best friend or cousin. Had a history of getting together with women that I had dated or had expressed interest in dating, and even admitted on a number of occasions to wanting to sleep with them to prove that they were cheaters. It had been in my ex's ear, causing damage here and there, until she decided to leave me. He left his wife that same day, and the two of them wound up at the same mutual friend's house to comfort each other. I had confronted her a few months before the end about what was going on with the two of them, as there was a lot of secretive texting, and I had caught some damning evidence that it existed. Of course, I got that nothing is going on. There's nothing to worry about. If you're enjoying the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos like this. Story 23. The girlfriend's perspective. The first time my ex got cruel towards me was the night I met the guy you shouldn't worry about. We were at my ex's favorite bar. A guy walked in, and my friends and I decided to wing the single girl as he was gorgeous. At some point, I was talking to him as he had entered the girls' group to connect more with my friend. My ex walks in and sees us. I smile because I'm excited to introduce him. I was blindly in love with my ex. Then I see the curtain drop, and his eyes get that look that I'm very familiar with. Essentially, a signal that I will get shouted at, punches will be thrown at the wall, and I will be told to move out of our apartment, followed by reconciliation the next morning. I run over to him to try to fix it before it becomes too bad and explain that there's nothing to worry about. We're ringing my friend. He doesn't believe it at all and starts telling me what a disgrace I am to him. It then says that we're going home. One of my friends sees what is going on and knows about how our fights have been before. She comes over and says that there's no way that I'm leaving with him. I'm coming to her place and can stay in her guest room. The ex and his friend got extremely upset that she's stepping in, and my ex just leaves the place without another word. I stay with my friends at the bar. At this point, I'm very accustomed to the ex's reaction patterns and explain that there's really nothing to do. Nor have I found what sets it off. It can be anything. In this case, I am assuming that he was feeling very jealous and insecure, but I will be safe to go home, even though he will be very angry. I was wrong. When I came home, he was there. I went into bed and he started to shove me out of bed. I told him to stop, then he got up, came over to me, and pushed me out of the room and into the wall in the living room. Later the next weekend, he does the same, but for a different reason. I don't even remember what the reason was that he got angry again. I stayed at a friend's couch for 2 nights and luckily found an apartment that could move into the same weekend. That is unheard of in the city where I live. 1 to 1.5 months later, I run into this guy from the bar at a day concert. We quickly catch up and decide to keep in touch throughout the day as we were both out enjoying the sun and we'll grab a few drinks with friends after dinner. He ends up meeting me and my friends for a few drinks after dinner. It's a very nice evening, lots of laughter and easy going. Now we've been seeing each other for 4-ish months. We're seeing each other exclusively. He's nothing but patient with me as I'm quite reserved and scared of trusting my judgment of people at this point. I am moving very slowly in our connection. He's giving me space to get back on my feet and prioritize my career and sports while we meet a few times a week, telling me that he's serious about me and that I don't have to rush anything. At the same time, he's not saying that I'm the most perfect woman he has ever met or that we were meant to be. As my ex did immediately when we met, we like each other and are figuring things out step by step. So I guess the ex was in the right to be worried. Story 24. Coming at this from the female's point of view. I had a friend who I really thought was just a platonic friend and a nice person. It didn't seem to me that he was crossing boundaries or acting unusual, so I genuinely thought there was nothing to worry about and said so to my husband. I thought he seemed too friendly and too clean with me. I almost laughed it off, but my husband and I took a short break and this friend found out. Within 2 days, he asked me out and said he had loved me since we first met and he wanted to be together. He also said he thought I'd say yes as he believed deep down I loved him too. I simply replied that while I think he's a lovely guy, I'm sorry, but I'm trying to fix my marriage and I'm not interested and don't love anyone but my husband. He took that to mean I was trying to fix the marriage out of duty and that I said, I'm sorry, but, because I did actually love him, but I felt I owed it to my marriage to fix it. I shut him down and said I do not love him. I considered him as a friend, and the fact that he was so quick to try and replace my husband shows me my husband was correct with his gut feeling. While if he respects boundaries, we can talk as friends, I wasn't comfortable with him coming to stay at my home anymore. Story 25. We were only about 6 months into our relationship and she said not to worry. Then I saw him smack her behind. I confronted her about it later, saying what I had seen and was honest about how it made me feel and asked for honesty in return. She confirmed that she allowed the flirtation and there was, without a doubt, intimate tension, but that it hadn't gone to that point yet. I said, look, I'm not going to make you stay with me if you don't want to be with me, but I just didn't want to be cheated on and don't want you to have to live with the guilt of being the cheater. Over 10 years later, we're married with kids and he has faded into obscurity. Reading this post was the first time I had thought of him in years. Honestly, I hope he's doing okay. He was pretty depressed when she told him she wanted to commit to me and see where our relationship led. Last we heard, he had moved interstate. That would have been 6 years or so ago. Glad I didn't take the easy route and end things. She's been the best thing to ever happen to me and given me my 2 most precious gifts. Story 26. When they can admit, yeah, I guess in the right circumstances, maybe I would date him, it's far healthier for the relationship and everyone can move on. Also, in my experience, they don't end up dating that guy, but even if they did, everything was on the up and it's far less galling. They go out of their way to gaslight, insult the guy, and the entire premise. Are you kidding me? He's got the weird big head. No, absolutely never. He's so stupid. That's the giant red flag because they do end up dating that guy. Story 27. I'm a single father now who probably won't communicate with his mother till she gets back from military training in a little over a month. To keep it short, I tried communicating with her, and when she finally told me about him, she said they've done nothing and was debating if it's worth telling me since she didn't think he's worth it. Long distance, leaving the base, etc. Now I guess he's worth it and I'm not. I haven't heard from her, really, for almost a month while I'm taking care of her son. If you're in a similar position, trust your gut. Good luck. Story 28. Well, she didn't even want to admit she liked him, even when I directly asked, considering she was always texting and spending time with him because he was a work colleague. She said, he's like you, but also like me. It's so crazy. They're completely different personalities, so totally. Surely he's not flirting with someone in a relationship and being exactly what she wants him to be. I find out she went to his basketball game with his family without telling me that was the case. This was days after she tells me she wants a sudden break from talking out of the blue due to her health, both physically and mentally. Next minute she texts me she wants to break up. What a surprise when I see her post herself on a date with her friend 2 weeks after her health issues. That was the end of a 6-year relationship. Gotta love a breakup text followed by an immediate monkey branch to her friend. It's been a year now and they're convinced they found true love. Sucks because I was going to propose that year, but I guess it was a sign from the universe not to. Story 29. She was away in a scout camp. She was one of the adult instructors or leaders for the youth organization and told me not to worry about this guy she always hangs out with there. One night I was on the phone with her and he was walking her back to her tent. I could tell she just wasn't interested in talking to me. She was always messaging him too. Anyway, as soon as she starts the university, we have an argument over the phone and she, in my mind, overreacts and dumps me. A day later, she's with a guy. Come Christmas time, about 4 months later, I finally healed, feel confident, and I'm back to my old self again. She calls me out of the blue, making amends. Turns out he cheated on her at a party with a girl he told her not to worry about. She even said she fully realized the irony. Anyway, we had insanely good, crazy ex-intimacy for a few months, and then she eventually met someone nice and settled down with him. I wish her the best. I have my own family now that I love, and this was nearly a decade ago. Story 30. She probably dated him, but something didn't quite match up, but she likes his company. He's still on the team, but he's not getting playing time right now. Yeah, she's probably giving him some compensation occasionally to keep him on the team and maintain patience. Maybe letting him go in to spike the ball and run out some clock that Saturday night when you had an argument and she went out with her friends. You know that's what's going on, but if you remove emotions from it, it makes sense. She's measuring the field, seeing who the best contender is. It's not without reason. That's kind of what dating is. There just should be cleaner breaks and better communication. Story 31. The guy started as my friend. My girlfriend started including him when we were supposed to do things together, even supposedly romantic things. My girlfriend invited him to replace me on vacations after my work schedule suddenly changed and I couldn't go. They come back, and my girlfriend creates relationship drama to end us. My girlfriend moves in with him a week afterward, and she claims they're getting married. He comes home from work about a year later and finds another friend moved into their house because he couldn't afford her lifestyle. The partner I replaced her with and I have been together for almost 30 years now, and she's on her 3rd or 4th marriage now and is still looking for someone to support her lifestyle. Story 32. I was actually the guy not to worry about. I became super good friends with a girl who had been with a guy for over a year. I had a super hard crush on her, and something definitely could have happened under different circumstances. He was a schmuck. He openly threatened to end it all in a dramatic fashion if they were arguing. If she took too long in a public bathroom, he would kick the door in and shout for her, and I even suspect he may have beaten her a time or two. I was honestly just waiting for it to implode. She had asked me straight up if I liked her, and I said yes, and she said the same to me. But she wasn't the type to cheat, and I would have hated for anything to happen on bad terms. Time kind of kept going on. I met someone else who I'm now married to and have a beautiful son with. She actually passed away from cancer a few years back, and she was with someone else at the time which she seemed super happy with. So at the very least, she got away from that schmuck. Story 33. First guy I shouldn't worry about. She had intimacy with him while we were together, so we broke up, and she had intimacy with the second guy I shouldn't worry about. We get back together and break up again. Then she had intimacy with the first guy I shouldn't worry about, plus a third guy I shouldn't worry about. After all of this, I show my intelligence and get back together with her. We break up, and she had intimacy with the second guy I shouldn't worry about, plus a fourth guy I should definitely not worry about. Getting my Mensa degree at this point, I got back together with her. That time, after a while, she just one day tells me she wants to have intimacy with a guy I shouldn't worry about, so we broke up. I haven't talked to her since. Story 34. I was in a long-distance relationship. We talked for an hour or more every day over Skype. I never had an issue with any of her friends. This one guy she told me about was a lot like me. She couldn't wait for me to meet him. I was able to visit for 2 weeks, 2 months after she met him. Near the end of the visit, I asked, "When am I going to meet this guy?" She replied, "Well, I was not going to say anything, but I can't lie to you. One night, a bunch of us went out and we ended back at his flat with everyone. I was too intoxicated and was going to taxi home. He said just spend the night in his bed. He was going to sleep on the couch. He didn't sleep on the couch. After I got home, I broke up with her." Story 35. He kept pushing the boundaries, and one night we were having game night at my girlfriend's in my place. He kept making overly dirty comments directly to her in front of the group of 8 to 10 people. I pulled her into another room and said, "2 options. You kick him out or I do, and I'm not going to be nice about it." She asked him to leave. He started to make a scene, and I ended up having to physically remove him from the house, carried his butt outside, and set him down like a toddler. Last I heard, he married a woman with the same name that looks very similar to my girlfriend, and then they got really fat. They've only got regular fat, and we were coming up on 10 years together, so I'm calling it a win. Story 36. Yeah, luckily in my dating life, I had no tolerance for a guy she told me not to worry about. Major red flag to me. Too much baggage. Happily married now. My wife and I, before we met each other, both had people we were talking to, but both dropped anyone else we had as soon as we made things official. She had guys try to hit her up, which she was very open to me about, and quickly shut those guys down, either by just straight up telling them or blocking them if they were persistent. The same happened on my end. I guess that stuff is rare these days, but I found a girl with the same instincts as me, so we were able to cut through the BS real quick. I guess that's clearly hard to find these days. Lol. Story 37. She and I had been dating in high school. I'd left for college and she joined the military the following year. There was a guy that kept paying her attention, but she always said it was no big deal. Unwanted physical contact, always wanting to go out, comments about her looks, etc. I went to visit her at base, and he was trying to outdo me the whole evening. Buying drinks, one-upping stories. The glances she gave him were enough to finally make it click. The fact that she included him in that evening should have been a huge red flag to begin with. I broke up with her shortly thereafter, and she was officially dating him on social media within 24 hours. What a gut punch. But validation for ending things. They married after a few months and divorced after 2 short years. Lesson learned and bullet dodged. Story 38. My ex convinced themselves we would break up because of a number of things that weren't true, which we could have fixed with communication. They started hanging out with this online friend a lot more. A couple of months later, the two of them were spending more time together than my partner and I were, watching my partner's favorite anime alone together and giving some lame excuses to why I wouldn't want to watch it. The reason being it was queer-coded, and we were in a queer relationship, without telling me or asking if I wanted to watch it. We broke up a couple of weeks after moving into an apartment together. The two of them were dating just over a month later, but started doing video calls every day just a few days after we broke up. I wasn't able to move out for a few months, so I got to hear the whole sprouting of what was probably already there. The whole reason we broke up was avoidable with communication, but they gave up, so what could I do alone? I was being emotionally cheated on, and the two of them are still together 8 months later. Story 39. She cheated on me with that guy, then asked me if I was into open relationships. I said yes because I loved her. She then fell in love with the guy and never stopped seeing him when she wanted to, but she didn't want to admit it. I broke up with her. Then she broke up with him after she fell in love with some rich guy in another country hundreds of kilometers from her place. The fun part is, when we were together, a 1-hour drive was too far and I was too old. The new guy is like 5 years older than me and it takes her like 6 hours to get there. I started therapy and I'm fine now. Story 40. She spent all night talking to some guitarist at a local gig. Don't worry about him. She actively avoided me on the night out and spent her time with the guitarist. At the end of the night, she had a huge argument with me and tried to gaslight me into thinking I was avoiding her. We ended up breaking up, and yes, you know where this is going. They started dating within a week, and after a few weeks, she realized the guy was dirt and asked me to take her back. Backed off and kept my distance. We reconnected after university. She was pregnant with her second child and no baby daddy. I kept my distance and just remained friends. We became good friends, eventually, after she met her husband. I was even invited to the wedding. Story 41. First major relationship. Together for 4 years and all was going well until she started her first job out of university, where a new temp guy suddenly became the only person she wanted to talk about or talk to. I voiced some concerns, but they were brushed off, along with any attempts to do couple things together anymore. Thanks to her staying logged into apps across multiple devices, what was actually going on became painfully obvious when she'd leave the room to chat on her phone and her iPod Touch would vibrate and flash up with his responses. The best part is that we tried to patch things up, and then I eventually learned that she had told him not to worry about me as well, and that was just some obsessive roommate. I had a lot of satisfaction telling him otherwise. Story 42. He had intimacy with her after they went to a conference and had coffee. A 2-year relationship led to a cheating-driven breakup. Her depression got worse, and he forced her to get on the pill because he doesn't feel anything with protection. She promised him she would not see me again. She did. She told me they decided to part, but I'm inclined to think he left her. Lol. What makes me angry the most is that a radical feminist would start taking the pill out of love and relinquish control over her body for a man, for said man to treat her like crap. In the end, he mostly likely is still doing menial jobs and studying theatrics, or theater, or acting, or whatever. Meanwhile, I got better, started therapy, and I've been going to the gym regularly for 2.5 years. So okay, he had a bigger Johnson and a 17-centimeter height difference with me, but in the end, I'm going to have the bigger salary. I'm still bitter about it now. I'm disappointed and have trust issues. He probably does not. The morality of that story is you'd rather be an obnoxious and uncaring schmuck rather than a sensitive one that will get hurt. Story 43. We've been dating for over a year in high school. She forced us into a double date for prom, kind of last minute. Soon after, but before prom, she missed a date with me because we were watching Forrest Gump and lost track of time. She spent most of prom night watching his every move like some weird puppy dog. She dumped me 3 days after prom. Asked her why she didn't just tell me that she wanted to go to prom with him instead, so I could have been there with someone that wanted to be there with me. She's really dumb about it. They totally weren't dating after that, even though a lot of our friends were telling me they were seeing them out of everywhere. Honestly, I didn't care at that point, and I took the opportunity to ask out her best friend, who eagerly replied yes, like she had been just waiting for me to ask. Then she had the nerve to accuse me of being vengeful, even though she's the one that dumped me for my own buddy. Ironically enough, he and I are in good terms these days, but for some reason, he thought I was mad at him for a few years in the middle there, where I clearly was not rude or spiteful towards him. When he finally brought it up, I laughed about it and said, "You've been thinking about that for a while, haven't you?" Don't worry, I haven't been. Well, if you like these stories, here's more. YouTube thinks you're gonna love this. Catch you in that video.